Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Live and Learn podcast. It is Sunday, September the 28th. We are live here following the conclusion of the Los Angeles Rams and Indianapolis Colts game, which was a phenomenal game, the 5 o'clock window in the National Football League. Typically, Sunday nights, we do a full kind of NFL breakdown, and we will over the course of the podcast. But it was a busy sports weekend. A lot happened. So I want to get into a lot of it as well as tee up the Sunday night game between the Packers and Cowboys, which starts in about an hour. And then we also got 2 Monday Night Football games tomorrow. We'll look at that betting line and we will recap those games, talk about those games on Tuesday. Please like, subscribe, follow on the Live and Learn podcast, Spotify and Apple pages. Give us a comment, review, things you want covered on the podcast. Let me know, and I can certainly do that because we will have lots of different content with the baseball playoffs kicking off Tuesday afternoon. We'll have NFL. Hockey starts in a week from Tuesday. On Tuesday's podcast, we'll be doing a Metropolitan and Atlantic Division preview, just like we did last week when I did the Central and the Pacific out west. So if you haven't listened to that show, please go back and do it. I enjoy doing it, going through, looking at the teams, additions, subtractions, all that fun stuff. So that'll be done this week, and we'll cover that on Tuesday night's podcast. But what a sports weekend. The end of September, and you got football. It was a really fun college football game yesterday. Really fun day with Penn State and Oregon and Alabama winning on the road in Athens against Georgia. Huge win for that program. And now, really, I want to start with baseball tonight. It was game 162 today. There was games that had meaning. There were games that didn't matter to either team. One game that did matter was the Toronto Blue Jays playing the Tampa Bay Rays in Toronto in the season finale. Toronto Blue Jays had a division lead up to 6-7 games, parts of August and September. They went through skids. They lost Bo Bichette, their best player this year, to a hamstring injury. We'll see if he can come back next weekend for game 1. They dealt with injuries to Jose Barrios. They dealt with problems with Max Scherzer, who can't pitch anymore out of nowhere. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. not hitting a home run for 20-plus games. Him going through struggles. Through all of that, they had to win their last 4 games because the Yankees won their last 4 games, and the Blue Jays beat the Red Sox on Thursday and swept the Rays this weekend in Toronto to win the American League East for the first time since 2015, and only the 3rd time in franchise history. Beating out the Yankees and avoiding the dreaded wild card weekend. That's been just a scary thing for the Blue Jays, losing to the Mariners in years past, losing to the Twins in years past. You get to rest, you get to line up your rotation, and watch other teams scramble to see who will face you. Times today it was close. Alejandro Kirk was the hero. He was the MVP of today's game. Hitting a grand slam in the bottom of the first, then hitting another home run later in the game to blow it open before they ultimately won 13-4, a decisive victory for the Toronto Blue Jays. A team nobody expected to win the division, including me. People had faith in the Orioles, myself included. The Orioles were one of the more disappointing teams in baseball. I can't say the most disappointing because we're going to get to the Mets. But the Orioles were never in it. They were out of it in May. I didn't think the Yankees would make the playoffs. They did. Credit to them. They went through their ups and downs. Aaron Judge injury, Giancarlo Stanton not playing until later in the season, pitching that I still don't trust, that I think will be their ultimate undoing before the World Series. But they overcame it. They make the playoffs, but they weren't good enough. Toronto were better than the Yankees head-to-head, and that's what gets them to the division win. You avoid a potential 3 games. You have games 1, 2, and 5 in the DS on your home field. You have games 1, 2, 6, and 7 on your home field in a CS. And it's set up perfect. Home field throughout the American League playoffs. Better than the Yankees, better than the Mariners, better than everybody. They did it. So many great stories for the Blue Jays. Even without their MVP of the season, to me, is Bo Bichette, and it's not close. Bo Bichette didn't play the last 2-3 weeks of the season. He still led baseball in hits. Incredible season heading into a free agency period where he's going to make some money somewhere. Might not be in Toronto, but he's going to make some money somewhere. And he was game, big moments. He was huge. You had guys like Addison Barger, Ernie Clement, who just showed up and made plays. Friday night, Ernie Clement, huge part of the reason they beat the Rays. He played third. He played second. He played in the outfield. Barger, same thing. Utility player, but a utility player that gave you something. These are homegrown talents. Andre Jimenez, Anthony Santander, Scherzer, I would say for the most part. Signings gave them nothing. Were net negatives. Were not worth the price of admission. They're younger, cheaper, talent, produced, were awesome. And credit to Mark Shapiro, Ross Atkins for having faith in these guys and for those players delivering. Down the stretch, Trey Savage pitching on a Saturday must-win game. Was he perfect down the stretch? No. But he was good enough to get the W, good enough to survive and advance. And going into this period, the Blue Jays are the most dangerous team in the American League, and I stand by that. To me, they should be the betting favorite in the American League to reach the World Series, something they haven't done since 1993. 1993. By avoiding the wild card, which is massive for this team, you can set up Bieber, Gosman, in a perfect world, Bassett with the extra time can come off the injured list and pitch in Game 3. And then you can make a decision. Do you want to go with Scherzer or do you want to go with the kid? I'm going with your Savage, and I'm putting Scherzer in the bullpen. And the reason being is I've seen Scherzer pitch in the bullpen to win World Series. He did it in Texas. We've seen all-time greats, Madison Bumgarner, Clayton Kershaw, not that successfully, but they do it. Your Savage is a kid. Pitch, if you need to go to a bullpen early, but you can set up your rotation. That's such an advantage. Whether they play the Yankees or the Red Sox or a team from the American League Central, they will not be able to set up the rotation. They have to pitch guys Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then you're back again on Saturday. You're behind, and in a perfect world, you should have the advantage over whoever you face. For the Blue Jays, I think we'll get to pressure and what's going to – but it's 100% a successful season even if they don't win the World Series. 100%. Because I didn't have them going here. They were a disaster team last year. A disaster. Euphoric moment for John Schneider and Ross Atkins. People wanted Ross Atkins fired this year, and Shapiro and Schneider. They delivered. They spent good money. They didn't spend crazy money to build a competitive team, which credit to them. You don't have to if you're, smart. Look at Cleveland. Look at my Cincinnati Reds. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll get to them. Terry Francona, what a legend. But Barger, cheap. Clement, cheap. You gave Kirk an extension, but not crazy money. Heineman, cheap. Was there a better backup catcher in the league than Tyler Heineman? He batted near 300. Cooled off in September, but everybody on that fucking team did. So it's a great run. It's not over. Like I said, I think they should be the favorite to get to the World Series, but enjoy it. And there's lots there. Blue Jays, their bracket, they're going to get the winner, the Red Sox or the Yankees, which is fun. Fun. If get your tickets. October baseball in Toronto, Yankees or Red Sox coming in. Euphoria. Now, I think there should be reseeding after every round. There isn't, which I hate, but Rome wasn't built in a day. Hopefully that's changed over time. Baseball is actually one of the leagues that's more apt to make changes than, the others when it comes to, automated balls and strikes and the pitch clock and these different things that baseball has done to improve their product. Maybe that'll happen. But nevertheless, you got home baseball in Toronto in October. Awesome. And it's fun in Canada to see a home team play some games, some big games. American League, Seattle, 2 seed. For the first time since 2016, the Houston Astros are not a playoff team. Crazy. Houston had too many injuries, and it caught up with them. They're a playoff team for sure if they're healthy. I think they win that division if they're healthy, but they're not. So they miss. Heck of a run. And I don't think they're dead yet, the Houston Astros. That'll be written. I don't think they're dead yet. But Seattle, another really fun story. The big dumper, obviously top of mind. 60 home run club, only the 7th player in Major League history to do that. And a bunch of those other guys are Judge and a bunch of steroid junkies, so really like one of 3. You got Eugenio Suarez, who they got the trade deadline. He hits 50 home runs. They're a team that doesn't really hit for average, but they hit a ton of home runs. And I like their pitching staff. They can be dangerous. And they got an awesome home field in Seattle. They get up for those games, the Mariners fans. So we'll see what happens there, but they're the 2 seed. Solid Julio Rodriguez, Eugenio Suarez, Cal Raleigh. They're dangerous. They will get either the AL Central champion, the Cleveland Guardians. The Cleveland Guardians, who were 15 games back at one point. And that's not a typo, 15. Cleveland comes all the way back, wins the American League Central. Stephen Vogt, 2 years as manager, 2 playoff appearances. for Cleveland with a bottom 10 payroll. Stephen Vogt, former catcher. Jose Ramirez is one of the most underrated players in the history of baseball. He's just a gamer. He rocks because he's the only name you think of when you hear Cleveland. They traded Shane Bieber to the Blue Jays, and yet they won a division. They won a division, guys. Think about that. They trade their best pitcher. Yeah, sure, he's coming off Tommy John, but you traded him to the Blue Jays, a team you could potentially face, and yet you still win the Central, still win 88 games. Stephen Kwan, good player, almost traded him at the deadline. Jose Ramirez, I mean, he's just 282 batting for the season, 30 homers, 30 doubles, 85 RBIs. He's a stud. Kyle Munzardo, never heard of him. Shineman, Nolan Jones, Bo Naylor, Canadian catcher. But their team is a bunch of no names. But they did it. And they're still here. They make it they win their division. Tigers squeak in. Tigers are thankful for Astros being hurt and just brutal down the stretch. Tigers, they're a playoff team back-to-back years. Great. They can make up for their September and August failures if they have a good playoff run. But I don't know if they're going to. I don't have great faith that they're going to. They have to go to they were just in Cleveland this week. They lost 2 out of 3 in Cleveland. Tarek Skubal can only pitch once. And once he's pitched, he's done for the wild card series. And you have to rely on Jack Flaherty and other guys that just aren't getting it done. So you get in the American League, 2 divisions in the wild card. AL Central battle and an AL East battle, which is great. But Tigers, you got to go on a run, or it's a collapse of epic proportions. I mean, the thing for them, you're never going to get home field. They should have home field in the American League over the Blue Jays. They had that lead. They had it established, and it completely got ripped away from them. Brutal. I love both wildcard series in the American League. I think they're both fun for different reasons. I believe these games start Tuesday afternoon. We'll see how they go. No schedule yet. But the bracket, Seattle gets the winner of the Central. The Blue Jays get the winner of the Yankees and the Red Sox. Yankees-Red Sox. Garrett Crochet, Max Fried. Likely going to go in game 1 of that wild card series, which is a great matchup. Max Fried led baseball in wins this year with 19. He's had his ups and downs, but an overall really productive season for the New York Yankees. The Yankees are entering the playoffs feeling really good. So are the Red Sox. The Red Sox won 4 of their last 6. Yankees won 7 in a row. So they're feeling good about themselves. Giancarlo Stanton is playing awesome. Looks locked in. Aaron Judge looks good. Never been a great playoff performer. Maybe he can change that narrative. It only takes a couple games, and he's one of the best players in the history of baseball. That's not hyperbole. Look it up. So he can turn around that perception. Bellinger has playoff experience. The Yankees, they were in the World Series last year. They're a dangerous team, no doubt. No doubt about it. But the Red Sox, Crochet is as dangerous as they come. You do not want to be facing him. But again, Crochet leaves. Bellows been a hell of a pitcher. for the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox got better pitching overall. I trust them more. They got a young team full of guys that don't have a whole lot of experience against a Yankee team that was in the World Series last year and just has, bats that can produce. That's a fun series. Yankees spend a ton of money on that bullpen. We'll see if it works. If Doval, those guys can pitch or blow up. I lean Red Sox in that series. And I don't really know why, but I do. I lean Red Sox. In New York, the 3 games, and in New York, you get some home runs for free if you hit it a certain way, which they've been taking advantage of for years. No offense to my boy Casey, but it's true. I think that goes 3 either way, so I don't think that's not a sweep. Other one, I think that's a 3-game or 2. I think we're getting close series in these wild cards. These teams are good and they know each other really well. They played each other a ton already. But then go to the National League. The Milwaukee Brewers are the ones. They're a lot like Toronto. Nobody had Milwaukee. Milwaukee, frequent playoff team. Frequent. Well-run organization. But the Cubs spent a lot of money, including taking the manager. And the Cubs are happy because in year 2, they do get to the playoffs under, finally. But the Cubs are a team that spends, they traded for Kyle Tucker and they have to decide where they want to keep him. And Seiya Suzuki and, they just might, Bush had an awesome season. Cubs were a good team. Don't get me wrong, but Milwaukee really got the 1 seed through their play through July into August, where they won 18 in a row, and they were feeling themselves, and they survived the rest of the way. They lost a lot of games down the stretch. They lost games to the Brewers. Now, some of these games didn't matter. Most of them didn't. They knew they were the 1 seed. They knew they were going to the playoffs. They locked up the Central last weekend. So that was never a worry. So I take that all into consideration on where this team goes and how they feel about themselves and, all those different factors. But credit to them, they're the 1 seed, but they never win in the playoffs, whether it's at home or not. They struggle. So we'll see what happens with the Brew Crew. Great crowds. If you ever want to listen to a game in Milwaukee because they love themselves some baseball up there. 2 seed, that my Phillies, I think one of these years they're going to win a World Series. Should be this year. Going in, I love, even without Zach Wheeler, I love the Phillies roster. I do. I can't lie. I think they're loaded. Tons of playoff experience. A ton of guys that have never won, but I'm sure really want. You got Schwarber who had another awesome season entering free agency. And he's a stud. Stud. But you got Harper, you got Castellanos, Trey Turner. He won one in Washington. But he's been on Philly a long time and they haven't won. So I think a lot of hungry guys who've been on the team a long time. Stott's been there a while. Marsh has been on this team a long time. So Christopher Sanchez, their pitcher, what a season for him. Even without Wheeler, they got the pitching to go to the World Series. We'll see if they can do it. They always get close. They're the 2 seed. They will get the winner of the Cincinnati Reds and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Dodgers have to play wild card. crazy. Dodgers have to play wild card weekend. It's in Chavez Ravine. Still very much could win. You got Ohtani and Snell's pitching like a Cy Young winner going into the playoffs, and they're still, Yamamoto, they're still loaded. Still have a lot of players who take over anybody on your team on a given night. Mookie Betts starting to find his power again, starting to play like the old Mookie Betts, if you will. So they're still very much a scary team. I'm going to pull up a FanDuel here just to see the odds. But they get Cincinnati. Credit to the Cincinnati Reds. Cincinnati Reds, who looked out of it, looked very much out of it, and they didn't give up. Hunter Green is a stud, just a moose out there, and doing whatever he can do on a given night to win a game, to win a series. If you look at the odds, the Dodgers have the third best odds to win the World Series, just slightly ahead of the Blue Jays at plus 600. Blue Jays, you can get them right now, plus 650, the fourth best odds. Philly, number one, plus 450. Mariners slightly behind them at plus 550. So interesting there. Neither one seed is given the love. Brewers plus 700 to win the World Series. But Cincinnati, Terry Francona comes out of retirement and gets Cincinnati into the playoffs in a packed Central. National League Central gets Cubs, Brewers, Reds into the playoffs. Tough to do. They pulled it off. 83 wins. They needed the Mets to lose today because they lost, but the Mets did. And, Gavin Lux, former Dodger, Miguel Andujar, who was kind of given up on by the Yankees, Ellie De La Cruz, one of the funnest players to watch. Spencer Steer had a great season. They made it happen. They got solid pitching. It'll be highly unlikely they beat the Dodgers, but it's a great story in Cincinnati for that team to make the playoffs. Terry Francona, who's already a Hall of Famer, nearly got the Guardians to win a World Series in 2016, lost to the Cubs in Game 7, won a World Series with the Boston Red Sox, retired for health reasons, leaving Cleveland, then comes back with Cincinnati, another small market, and gets that team to the playoffs. If John Schneider didn't exist, I'd give him manager of the year. John Schneider's going to win it, I think, in Toronto for what he did. But I love that. Cincinnati, and Terry Francona to me is just a great dude, so I'm happy for him. Other side, you got Padres, Cubs. 3 games at Wrigley. That's a heavyweight series. Because, to me, whoever wins that series will be the favorite to beat Milwaukee in the DS. Actually, I'll go on and say it right now. I don't care who wins that series, Cubs or Padres will beat the Brewers in the NLDS. Could be wrong. I don't think I will be, but we'll see. Padres have spent a ton of money again. Don't win the division because the Dodgers exist, but are in the playoffs. And they're a lot like the Phillies, where they've gotten close. They've knocked on the door, but they can't win. AJ Preller, aggressive GM, wants to win a World wants to win a World Series in San Diego. Machado, Tatis, Luis Arias. They got a team, certainly. But the Cubs with Kyle Tucker, and Cubs have some really good pitching. That's a coin flip series for me. The Cubs and Padres. And how you line up pitching, Dansby Swanson and Pete Crow Armstrong, who had a hell of a year. Seiya Suzuki, Michael Busch, Kyle Tucker, Carlos Santana on a playoff team because he is every year. Michael Shaw, a great season for him. They have a lot of guys. Matthew Boyd, what a year. Ray, Imanga. They could have a bunch of guys that they could start. I think they have more pitchers that just honestly they could go with if need be. So they're in a good spot that way. Padres, other side of the coin. I like their position players a little bit more, I think, for San Diego. Just guys that have been there, have done that, have produced. Tatis, Bogarts, Gavin Sheets, Laureano. They're just deep. They'll have guys coming off their bench that I think are good players that can produce. Nick Pivetta had an awesome season. Dylan Cease didn't, but we'll see if, Yu Darvish, Peralta, Suarez. We'll see. We'll see what. I like the Cubs pitching more. I like the bats more for San Diego. Something's got to give. 2 out of 3. Winner gets Milwaukee in Milwaukee. And like I said, I like either of them to beat Milwaukee. Phillies, Dodgers on the other side, that could be a heavyweight battle. Heavyweight battle between two teams that have a lot of veterans that want to win, that are playing for everything. Bryce Harper went to Philly, left Washington thinking he'd win a World Series. Hasn't yet. His team in Washington did the very next year. That can't feel good. That can't sit well with him. That it never happened. But things could change this year. Baseball postseason begins Tuesday afternoon. These wildcard series go from Tuesday to Thursday, all 3 games in the same location. There will be 4 games in New York. There will be 4 games in Los Angeles, 4 games in Wrigley, and 3 games in Cleveland. So something's got to give there. And then the divisional series start on Saturday. Baseball playoffs, getting to October is fun because you got to love playoff baseball. Every pitch matters so very much. And we'll cover it all here on Live and Learn. Also this weekend, we had the Ryder Cup. Bethpage Black in Long Island. A course that is known for being tough to play wasn't this weekend. A course that I can't get off how easy the course played, because the rough really wasn't that long and they made it quite easy for a Ryder Cup. The crowd was okay, a bunch of idiots, a lot of them, getting after Rory McIlroy, which I think was just uncalled for, but nevertheless got a bunch of Long Island drunks, so what do you really expect? But the Ryder Cup ended up being somewhat anticlimactic, even though it became very close today down the stretch. And it became very anticlimactic because it was over yesterday. Pull up my notes here. Entering play this morning, Europe only needed 2.5 points in the singles session today to win the Ryder Cup. They barely got that, but they got it. They got half a point because Victor Hovland pulled out of his match because of a neck injury. And the fact that there's a rule where you have a tie when one participant can't participate, that should be an automatic disqualification. Points go to the Americans. But again, Rome wasn't built in a day. There's only so many smart ideas that you can lay on somebody at a time. Peace and love, peace and love. I get it. But nevertheless, the first 2 days, it was domination by Europe. And the only golfers on the American team that really had a pulse were Bryson DeChambeau and Cameron Young. Cameron Young, who grew up playing Bethpage Black, who won an amateur at Bethpage Black. He was amazing. Bryson DeChambeau, I thought, played really well overall. His only loss is when he was partnered with Scottie Scheffler, if you can believe that, which is hard to believe that I think the two of the 3 or 4 best golfers in the world lost a matchup together, but they did. And for the Americans, they couldn't make a big putt. Anytime you needed something from Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood, Rory McIlroy, they came up big. They made it happen. Colin Morikawa, Scottie Scheffler, Justin Thomas until today were muted, provided nothing. Colin Morikawa and Harris English might as well have just stayed the fuck home. They were useless to Keegan Bradley and were borderline unplayable after day one, after the disaster that they were putting on the course. It's the first time since 2012 that anyone, Europe or the United States, has won back-to-back Ryder Cups. And going into it, the Europeans were the better team. So it's not a huge surprise that they won. They were deep. Justin Rose at 45 is still a hell of a golfer, and he loves the Ryder Cup. Tommy Fleetwood finally won a tournament in late August, winning the Tour Championship, and he rode that momentum into this tournament, and he played great. Rory McIlroy won the Irish Open, was dialed pretty well all weekend long. The Europeans were a team. The Americans, I think, were a bunch of individuals thrown together. And they couldn't make, John Rahm was fantastic. Terrell Hatton came up clutch when you needed him to be. And he got close, but it was never in danger of being lost because you only needed 2 points. And Europe wins 15-13, very close. The Americans winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 head-to-head matchups today, which is what you expect. Because I think that's where the Americans, you go, okay, this is where we really can put the hammer down. Where you have Cameron Young beat Justin Rose. And again, I think Cameron Young was the best American overall. Justin Thomas beat Tommy Fleetwood on an epic putt on 18. That's a close matchup. Fitzpatrick and DeChambeau was a draw. Shouldn't have been because Fitzpatrick had a 4-shot advantage at one point. But that should be an American win, just looking at it. Scheffler beats McIlroy by a stroke. That's as close as it gets, but Scheffler is the best golfer in the world, so I'll ride Scheffler. Ludwig Aberg beats Patrick Cantlay. Okay. I could buy that. Cantlay was actually one of the better Americans, and I hate to say that because I can't stand him. Schauffele beats John Rahm comfortably. Spawn beats Sepp Straka. Ben Griffin beats Hogard. Yep. So a lot of these head-to-heads, you go advantage Americans because they just have better guys overall. Just, I think when it comes to head-to-head competition, you're going to pick them, to a man, you'll go with them. But it didn't matter. They needed a pulse the first 2 days, and they didn't have one. Keegan Bradley put bad pairings together. Didn't work. He should have played. He was more than eligible to play, and he didn't play. I don't know why he didn't play. Being a captain, you can't do both. I think that's BS. He would have been more effective than Harris English. He would have been more effective than Colin Morikawa, who had an awful season and an awful Ryder Cup. So, Zach Johnson took a lot of heat when he didn't pick Keegan Bradley 2 years ago. The Americans lost. Keegan Bradley didn't pick Keegan Bradley 2 years later, and the Americans lose. And you lose on home soil. All the more embarrassing. And Justin Rose, up there in age, certainly. Shane Lowry getting up there in age. You have guys on the European side that this is probably their last Ryder Cup. But I still think the Americans have a lot of good guys for the next while to compete and do well. Disregarding the Hogard brothers, but you got guys that can play. Fitzpatrick, credit him, he showed up and he had a good week. Good week, competed hard, did everything you'd ask of him. And it's quite honestly staggering for the Americans. The best you're hoping for is a tie. And they couldn't do that. And I don't know what the answer is moving forward. Again, it happens every 2 years, but it's a big deal when you lose at home. Because the Europeans didn't. Europeans won 2 years ago. Europeans win on U.S. soil this year. Shane Lowry with an awesome putt with a career-defining moment for him. He's a major winner, but he also makes that putt to clinch the Ryder Cup, which will be remembered forever. Scotty Scheffler goes 0 for 4 in team play. 0 for 4. 0 for 2 with him and Russell Henley. Him and DeChambeau lose playing together. I think the Europeans had a better team. It's 15-13, but it didn't feel that close because, like I said, it was over yesterday. It was over before you knew it. And Europeans had control. They were game. They were ready. They get the victory. And it's a sad, sad state of affairs for the American side. And I'm sure the Europeans will be drinking a ton of beer in New York tonight, in Manhattan, living it up because they earned it and they won. And they had the bragging rights. Overall, I think it was a solid event. NBC did okay, their coverage. If you didn't have it on TV, you can't stream it. And you couldn't do that in the United States either, which to me is puzzling that you can't find this event. So that's a big question mark for me. Do you want people to watch it? Do you want viewership? All of those things, question marks for me. But it's fun golf, good competition. A lot of fist pumps, a lot of guys happy to make certain putts. I wanted the course to be tougher because it wasn't. And that was disappointing. This should be treated like a major and how difficult it is. And really, Bethpage Black just said, all right, come to our course. Let's have it played easy and have these guys, have the ability to do whatever the hell they want on this course. I'm not up for that. That sucks. That doesn't make for a good. I don't want to see them chew up the course, me personally. Maybe some people do, but I didn't want to see that. But it's fun. End of September, Ryder Cup, the battle. People care. People love it. And we'll see what happens with the Americans. With Keegan Bradley. No doubt they'll have a new captain in 2 years. And Zach Johnson took a lot of heat. And Keegan Bradley will take a lot of heat because they lost. And again, he didn't pick himself. And I think it's a stupid, cowardly move. And I like Keegan Bradley. But when you don't win, you could have picked yourself. And I think you could competed half as good as some of them. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it's not a good look. Quite frankly. I'm curious to see the ratings because it's during an NFL Sunday. And it was very much out of hand. So I'm wondering how it went when it comes to viewer. I'll be curious to see that over the next couple of days. News here, courtesy of Jeff Passan on Twitter. Wildcard schedule for games 1 and 2 on Tuesday and Wednesday are the same all times. So Tigers Guardians 2 o'clock on Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon. Padres Cubs at 4 o'clock Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon. And you got Red Sox Yankees at 7 o'clock Tuesday, Wednesday. Reds Dodgers at 10 o'clock Tuesday and Wednesday. Game 3s not scheduled yet because they're all subject, that you need to split the first 2 in order to get there. So we'll see. But basically you have a game every 3 hours. So with the new pitch clock and everything, those probably won't coincide with one another, which is great. But Tigers Guardians 2 o'clock Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon. So afternoon baseball in Cleveland, which who doesn't love a midweek baseball? Collins sick in Cleveland. Go full Ferris Bueller, 4 o'clock in the afternoon at Wrigley Field. Oh, the sights, the sounds. I love it. But should be fun this week for Major League Baseball and everything that's going on. Okay. We also had football today. It is an NFL Sunday and lots happening, lots going on. I would make the argument the biggest development was the Kansas City Chiefs playing like the Kansas City Chiefs, blowing out the Baltimore Ravens in Kansas City, improving their record to 2-2. Now only one game out of first place. Beating the Giants Sunday night, beating the Ravens this afternoon. And I thought it was one of Patrick Mahomes' best games in a long time. When it comes to regular season, their offense last year was lethargic, and they went 15-2, and they were great. But he looked like vintage Pat Mahomes today. 37-20 beat down of the Ravens. Came in the game as a dog. I told you, take the live dog. I love it. Mahomes today went 25-37, 274 tuds, no turnovers. He also only had to run the ball 4 times today, which is great because he was leading quarterbacks in rushing after the first 3 weeks. Couple of things. They ran the football today, not that effective, but they ran the football, and they have to continue to do that. Give the ball to Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Smith, Rashard Smith, who they're starting to use. Give them the ball, try to establish a run game. It'll get better over time. And they ran the ball, 20, 22, 20, 30 times today. Threw the ball 37, ran the ball 30. That's a good combination for Kansas City. And the other big thing, Xavier Worthy returned today after a separated shoulder. He had 130 just all-purpose yards, 38 on the ground, 83 through the air. He is the X factor for this offense. He was the first-round pick 2 years ago, had a really good playoffs, had an awesome Super Bowl. He can take the top off the defense. You can use him in the running game, screens. He's a jack of all trades. I think they didn't use him enough last year, and they're going to have to force to use him more this year. But if you have Worthy, Kelsey is not going to be great, but if he can get you 50 yards a game, which is what he had today, great. 5 catches, 50 yards. That'll do. Hollywood Brown caught a touchdown today. Juju Smith-Schuster had 4 catches. Again, these guys aren't going to be burners. This isn't going to lead to Kansas City having the most explosive offense in the league. But can they be competitive? Absolutely. Like I said, Rashard Smith had 3 catches for 27 yards. New piece. Pacheco, Tyquan Thornton caught a touchdown. So no elite wide receivers because Xavier Worthy is more of a gadget, more of a fast guy. But they have players who can at least show up and make a big play when you need them to. And I have faith in those guys for the Chiefs to do that. And Mahomes is the best player in the sport. So I'm game for all of it. Kansas City's defense remains solid. They were great. Steve Spagnuolo dialing up the blitz on Lamar Jackson today. They were fun. Really fun. And they can flat out play. But I thought Mahomes was great. I love their attack. They took more chances. I'm all about it. Baltimore Ravens are now 1-3 on the season, losing to Detroit, Kansas City, and Buffalo. Couple of things. They lose to 3 of the best teams in the league. So there's no shame in that, but Baltimore sees himself as one of the best teams in the league. And they are, but they aren't. Because they never beat Kansas City, they never beat Buffalo, and they lost to Detroit. Baltimore can beat, Cleveland and beat the bottom feeders and pick apart the Steelers now. But in the big games, their defense suck, which it did again. It gave up 37. Fun fact, guess which defense given up the most points in the NFL this year? It's not the Dolphins. It's the Ravens. The Ravens have given up over 200 points in 4 games. They're dreadful. 37 to a Kansas City offense that looked anemic through 3 weeks. Playing Baltimore, it's the get-right game for every team on the schedule. So, not to mention, Lamar only played 3 quarters, left the game with a hamstring injury. He got sacked 7 times on Monday night. He got sacked 3 times it's 10 sacks in 6 days for Lamar Jackson. That is what's happening with Baltimore. Their defense sucks. Lamar's getting killed. He might miss some time. Who the hell knows? And they're turning the ball over a ton. 2 turnovers in the first half, both led to touchdowns, including Lamar fumbling. He's doing that more and more. Derrick Henry was a non-factor in today's game again. 8 carries for 42 yards. That's a good game. But 8 carries, that's not enough. Game was out of hand. They had forced to throw the football. They were never in it, the Baltimore Ravens. Mistake after mistake. I don't know with this team. There's something about it that's not working. Something about it that just stinks. Baltimore has the Texans next Sunday. Texans are not a great team. They're 1-3 as well. Host Rams. Rams are good. Rams are good. Bye week Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals. So they're a difficult part of the schedule, 100% early on. I still think they're a playoff team, but they're not in the same class like Buffalo. And Buffalo has some Buffalo's defense. It'll look today, they only gave up 19, but they gave up 19 points to New Orleans. Oof. Buffalo's got some problems. Their defense stinks. The Buffalo Bills stinks. That first drive against it, they gave up just 10 yards of play. It was a joke. But Buffalo wins. They're 4-0. Great for them. But Baltimore, they need to get it together. Period. And they need Lamar healthy. That's an obvious. Cooper Rush is getting you to a lottery pick. But this team can't stop anyone. They can't protect their quarterback. They can't keep possession of the football. They are struggling. Baltimore is a team that a lot of people like, but they don't have the weapons. So they don't have the identity to show it. So talented. But they got their ass handed to them today. And they always lose to Kansas City. Regular season play don't matter. Mahomes beats Lamar. And it's more than that because it's the players. But when it's a quarterback battle, you know the way it's going to go. Mahomes was awesome today. Worthy was awesome today. George Karlaftis on the defense was awesome today. Ravens were outclassed. That game was over at halftime. John Harbaugh. Been there a long time. Good coach. People like him. All that different. I get it. You got to win something, dude. And he doesn't. That's the thing. He's not winning these big games. He's putting this team in a tough spot. Week after week after week. No adjustments. No change. Something's got to give. Other fun game. My Colts lose to the Rams. Colts are still the funnest watching football, and the Rams are real close behind. Both these teams are a lot of fun. I think both these teams are going to win their respective divisions. And Daniel Jones threw an interception late, hoping to win the game. I don't count that one. Threw an interception on his first drive, but he played well again today, in my humble opinion. This game is an overtime game if Adonai Mitchell, he had a surefire touchdown. Big play down the field, was walking. He didn't have a defender within 10 yards. And he fumbled the ball going into the end zone, it rolls through, it's a touchback. They lose the game by 7 points. So, yeah, the Rams scored a touchdown, Tutu Atwell, 88-yard, beautiful play. Matthew Stafford was vintage Matthew Stafford today. And he was great. However, if Adonai Mitchell doesn't do that, the game's tied, Colts get the ball back, field goal to win it. We've seen them do that this year. They did it against the Broncos. It's a different game. But they turn the ball over too much, and that's just, it's an inexcusable mistake for Adonai Mitchell, for a guy that, a second-year player that hasn't been very good. He had 3 for 96 today, but that one fumble overshadows those 96 yards. I'm still high in the Colts. Jonathan Taylor averaged 4 yards a carry today. Solid game for him. They didn't run the football enough. That would be my one complaint. Tyler Warren is already a force in the NFL. 5 catches for 70 yards. He's just a stud. Every big play. He had a rushing touchdown today. He can do it all. He did it all at Penn State. He can do it all in Indianapolis. Indy, to me, still a good team. They got some competition because Jacksonville's 3-1 in the AFC. So Jacksonville beating San Francisco today in San Francisco. Good win for the Jags. A team I still don't know what the hell they are, Jacksonville. Figuring that team out is it's a difficult puzzle for sure. I look at them and I go, okay, you beat the Panthers. Who cares? They stink. You lost to the Bengals. They should be 4-0. Texans have 1 win. Panthers have 1 win. And you beaten the 49ers even without those players. That's a good win. It's a good win. On the road in Santa Clara. Get 4 turnovers, 2 picks of Brock Purdy. And he fumbled today in his return. So 3 turnovers by the quarterback. Yikes. And I don't. San Francisco loses to Jacksonville. It is now Los Angeles, San Francisco, Thursday night football. Big game in the division. Fun game. I think one team's head and shoulder. I think the Rams are. They lost to everybody lose to the Eagles. Tampa Bay played a close game with the Eagles today. Nearly won it. Had a chance to win it. But the Eagles did enough. Eagles have infighting. Jordan Mailata left the game. That's a big deal. Their offensive lineman. But the Eagles are 4-0, and A.J. Brown's pissed because he's not getting enough targets, and he's sending out cryptic messages on Twitter because he had 2 catches for 7 yards today. But they won the game, and Jalen Hurts didn't turn the ball over, and he ran the ball 9 times for 62 yards, and he threw 2 touchdown passes, both to Dallas Goedert. And they're 4-0. They're 4-0, which is all that really matters for the Eagles. Win games, put yourself in a good position, try to win the NFC. They might self-destruct. I could see that happening because I think A.J. Brown's getting fed up with Jalen Hurts and the way they run their offense. But the Eagles win. And they're the reigning champs. They're the pace car. Saquon Barkley hasn't even had a good season yet. They're 4-0. A.J. Brown's had 1 good game. They're 4-0. They've had a wounded off at Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata beat up on the offensive line. They're 4-0. They've beaten Tampa already. They beat a division rival in the Cowboys. They beat Kansas City. They beat the Rams. They're not beating lemons. They're beating good teams. I think the Rams are going to win the division. I think the Bucs are going to win their division. I think the Chiefs are still going to win their division. Cowboys will pick high in the draft. But you're beating good teams, playoff teams, on your schedule early. Broncos, then Giants, Vikings, Giants. They have a tough schedule the whole year because they're the reigning champs, and you get it, in November. Packers, Lions, Cowboys, Bears, Chargers on the schedule, Commanders, Bills. So they got tough games the whole year, Philly. But they're going to be the favorite in most of these games because they're the pace car. They're the reigning champs, best team in the league, just the way it goes. But that fun game. Awesome game today between the Colts and the Rams in Los Angeles. Let's see. It was the start of the Jackson Dart era in New York, or Jackson's start, if you will. The Giants upsetting the Chargers 21. Frustrating game for Justin Herbert, who got sacked twice, hit like 7 times, threw 2 interceptions. Chargers offense could never get themselves together. They didn't the whole game. They ran the ball 13 times. They threw it 41. I don't know why, because every time they dropped back, Herbert had people in his face. They should have ran the ball more. That Giant front is the front you expect to see because they can play. Brian Burns, Okereke had an awesome game today. Abdul Carter, Dexter Lawrence, who got a huge interception that led to a touchdown. They came to play, and they were in Herbert's grill, and they affected him. And this is the Giants team I expected. A good defense with just competent offense. Competent. And they win. Now, in saying that, Jackson Dart, he got sacked 5 times. That's problematic. He went 13 for 20, 111 yards, 1 touchdown, and he also had a rushing touchdown. He ran the ball 10 times for 54 yards. So, overall, he gave them a spark, and they won a game. So that's a positive. He's very athletic. He can't take off as much as he does because he's going to get himself killed. And he got taken off for a play because they were worried he had a head injury. So Russell Wilson had to come in. So that can't happen. Running 10 times is just not a good idea for Jackson Dart. He needs to be better at sliding. Charger defense is good. No doubt about it. And they got after him. He held him the ball a little too long. That happens. We've seen that with Cam Ward in Tennessee, who had the worst game of his pro career today. One of the just awful games. But overall, he gives them a better chance to win. That team looked reinvigorated. And it just gave them life to have him on the field. Nothing against Russell Wilson, but that's just the truth. And they probably sold more tickets knowing that Jackson Dart was going to play. Bad news for Jackson Dart. Malik Neighbors, one of the best young receivers in football, tore his ACL in the second quarter. Went up trying to make a catch, couldn't make it, fell awkwardly, had to be carted off. Done for the season, obviously, and you look around, you got Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson. He's a good receiver. Theo Johnson, a couple good tight ends. So the offense isn't terrible, but a massive hole without Malik Neighbors in the lineup. And he's just a spark plug, and you like to see him play. So it's a brutal injury for the Giants, just flat out. It's awful. Wish it didn't happen. But injuries do happen. Malik Neighbors done for the season with the Giants. Dart's going to be fun. At New Orleans next week is your game. New Orleans defense isn't terrible. A lot of veterans, Cam Jordan, a lot of guys with pride. But the Saints, through four games, I thought that the Titans would look better, would have a pulse through four games, and they don't. Titans lose 26-0 today against Houston on the road. Houston had not won a game yet this year. I thought the Titans would at least cover the spread with 7.5. Vegas proving again they know more than the rest of us. Cam Ward went 10 for 26 for 108 yards, interception. Anemic offense. Houston, CJ Stroud, 22 for 28, 233, 2 touchdowns. So solid game for him. Woody Marks, young running back, had touchdown reception, touchdown on the ground. Jaden Higgins had his first career touchdown reception as well. That offense still looks anemic to me. Still, I don't have a whole lot of faith in, but Texans do get their first win of the season. They're now 1-3. Titans and Saints, to me, are logjam with either the loser of tomorrow night's game between the Jets and the Dolphins for the worst team in football. And we'll see how that goes tomorrow night in New York. Or is that game in Miami? Let's find out so I can give you the right information. In Miami, tomorrow night. But yeah, those three. Saints losing in Buffalo, no surprise there. Saints 16.5 point spread. They cover the spread. So the second straight week Buffalo can't cover a spread if you're in the gambling circles here. Didn't cover against the Dolphins, didn't cover against the Saints. And I'll tell you why they don't cover, because their defense sucks. Josh Allen didn't have a great game today, to be fair. But he was okay. He hasn't had to be great all year. James Cook was awesome. But they're winning. But their biggest thing is their defense has to be fixed. Say, it's only 19 points. It's only 19 points, but I mean, the Saints averaged, as a team, 6.5 yards per carry today. The Saints with Spencer Rattler. And if the Saints didn't run a stupid reverse pass to Chris Olave through an interception, they would have scored a touchdown, and that would have been like a 6-point game. A touchdown spread at 16.5. Saints stink. Bills will be there at the end. I think they're going to win the AFC. But they need to clean up parts of their game. Period. Beat the Ravens, beat the Jets, Dolphins, Saints. Those are, homecoming weekends. That's scholarship. Those are gimmies. They get the Patriots next Sunday night. That's probably a scholarship game as well. We'll see. That could be closer. Well, Falcons, okay, bye week. Carolina. Then they got Chiefs in November. We'll see. That's a good game. Their defense needs to get, you're playing a bunch of lemons. I want to see improvement from, to me, the best team in the AFC. I haven't. Still a concern. Other today, Falcons beat the Commanders without Jaden Daniels. Michael Penix, good bounce back game for him. He played solid. 20 for 26, 313, 2 touchdowns. They did throw a pick, but distributed the ball. Bijan Robinson, huge part of the offense. Now the Falcons are 2-2 on the season. Jaden Daniels expected to be back for next week. Steelers beat the Vikings in Dublin. Fun game this morning at 10:30. Vikings will play in Dublin again next weekend against the Cleveland Browns. Sorry, in England. So they're playing back-to-back games overseas. Detroit crushes Cleveland 34-10. When do we see Dylan Gabriel? That's my question. Joe Flacco has struggled all year long. They in London against the Vikings? Maybe. You never know. Patriots clubbed the Panthers 42-13. Bryce Young benched. What else is new? Patriots just did what they had to do. Created turnovers. capitalized on those turnovers. Kickoff return for a touchdown. They have really good special teams. Credit to them. Bears beat the Raiders on a blocked field goal to win the game on the road. So the Bears are now won 2 in a row. I still don't trust in them. Vegas, 1-3, going off the rails at my Colts next weekend. So we'll see what the Raiders, very disappointing for the Raiders early in this season. Other news, Joe Alt has a high ankle sprain for the Chargers. So already without one of Rashad's without Slayton, now you're going to Slater, pardon me, and now you're going to be without Joe Alt. That offensive line could be a struggle for them in the next couple weeks. But it was an okay NFL day, a lot of blowouts. We now get Packers, Cowboys in Dallas, the return of Micah Parsons. 6.5-point spread last time I checked. And I don't see how the Packers cover it with that defense. I think it could get ugly tonight for the Cowboys. We also got 2 games tomorrow, doubleheader Monday Night Football. Jets, Dolphins in Miami, Bengals, Broncos. 2 games that aren't that great, if we're being honest. But I'm going to watch. I'm also going to see One Battle After Another tomorrow night. We have a new movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Regina King. Sean Penn looks awesome. I can't wait to see it. Dolphins, Jets. Justin Fields will return, coming off his concussion. In Miami, Heat, no real big advantage because it's a night game. Dolphins 2.5. The fact Dolphins being a favorite in any game is quite staggering and quite, just makes you sit up a little straighter. You go, how the hell does that happen? I would take the Dolphins in the 2.5 at home. I'd lay the points because the Jets stink, and so do the Dolphins. But if this is a game where the Dolphins can get a win and Mike McDaniel doesn't get fired and oh my God, maybe they can turn it around, it'll be against the Jets. So I like the Dolphins 2.5 there. Night game, Bengals, Broncos 8.5. No Joe Burrow, obviously. Broncos have been disappointing through 3 weeks, to say the least. Bo Nix has not looked good. I don't really trust their offense. I love their defense. Nick Bonito is one of the better defensive players in football. That guy can just flat out ball. He can take your head off. So I think that the Broncos will create some turnovers, will sack the quarterback a ton. Bengals defense still is not great. I would love to take the Bengals 8.5, but I don't trust that offense. Even though the Broncos, I think this is a get-right game for Denver. They improved to 2-2. They need this win, need it desperately before they go to Philadelphia next Sunday, which is a big test for them. So I like the Broncos. I like both home teams to cover tomorrow night, which should be good. Baseball postseason starts Tuesday afternoon. We will look at and react to those early games on Tuesday night's podcast. Also on Tuesday night's podcast, I will preview the NHL Metropolitan and Atlantic divisions, as well as recap Monday Night Football and react to anything else that's happening in the world of sports. So thank you all for hanging out tonight. Hope you had a great weekend. We'll talk to you again on Tuesday. I'm your host, Noah Warren, and this is the Live and Learn podcast.